So many of you here this morning, and even more exciting that I saw a lot of you yesterday at the Chamber BFF event, which we were kind of talking about a little bit before everyone had hopped on. So that's exactly what today's event is about, is taking, what happens when we attend a Chamber event and learning how to maximize that. So I'll introduce Lara to you in a moment, but before I do that, I want to introduce Sonia. Sonia serves on the programs committee with me, which is chaired by Michael Mills, who's also on the call here today. And we're all able to be here because Sonia's bank, Berkshire Bank, is the one who sponsors these events. So as a chamber member, you do not have to pay to participate in these events, thanks to the generosity of Berkshire. So I'll turn it over to Sonia if she has anything she wants to share with the group.
Absolutely. Thank you, Betsy. I really appreciate it. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Sonia Decormier. I am a relationship manager here at Berkshire Bank in Worcester, your sponsor for today's webinar. First, I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the program committee for establishing these educational and informative webinar. Just a little bit more about Berkshire Bank. We are a local community bank. We've been in business for 176 years. Recently, we've been recognized among the top strong bank of the United States with everything that took place in the Silicon Valley. We're very proud to say that Berkshire has invested and made conscientious business decision where your money is secure with us. Our goal is to help a local business to thrive. We do have a multi-billion-dollar goal in the next 5 years to invest in the local community and the local business and help them prosper. Again, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I'll pass it on back to you, Betsy.
Thank you, Sonia. So again, this is really a benefit of membership at the Chamber, is folks like Sonia's bank investing in us and allowing us to offer these workshops. So I serve on the board of directors, and this committee, in addition to including Michael and Sonia and Carlene as our staff person who helps us, Lara is actually on the committee. So, but our committee meetings are virtual. So I actually got to meet her for the first time in person yesterday at the BFF event. And again, that's what this is all about, trying to figure out how to maximize networking after an event. So just to kind of give you a little bit of information about Lara, she opened her own business in the middle of COVID. So in 2021, she's an experienced marketer, creative thinker, and food enthusiast. So I need to learn more about that because my idea of food is takeout. And enjoys helping food entrepreneurs and small businesses build and sustain a relationship with their customers in order for them to drive growth. She's got almost 20 years experience working in marketing and communications in the nonprofit, higher ed, and small business sectors. She thrives on crafting integrated marketing strategies designed to increase leads, drive engagement, and develop loyal brand advocates. Again, she launched her business, Lara Zellman Marketing, in 2021 during COVID. Her current work combines her lifelong passion for marketing and food. She has a business marketing degree and a master's in liberal arts. And she actually is still involved with her alma mater. She's very involved in her sorority, the alumni chapter of that, and then also in a family social action group at her temple, which is wonderful. So when she's not volunteering for things like this, she's paying it forward in other contexts as well. When she's not talking marketing or food, you'll find her at the hockey rink, which I also think is fascinating. I know nothing about hockey, so maybe she can educate me on both food and hockey, coaching her kids' teams. And also, as somebody who works at the Y and deals with food insecurity, was really happy to learn about the work that she does for food insecure families, coming up with new recipes on her own in the kitchen. And she lives locally in Framingham with her husband and those 2 hockey playing children of hers. Yesterday, she did have a special treat for people who participated in the BFF event, and I hear she might have a special treat for us today too. So welcome, Lara. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Betsy. I am happy to be here and network with the Chamber. I love to meet new people. I love to expand my network, and I'm going to talk about what happens beyond meeting people. So I am going to put a prompt in the chat that asking you just to tell me a little bit about who you are, and what you do. And you'll see in there also, what's your favorite type of cheese? We'll add some food in there. And then I would challenge you to flip through. If you see someone who has a cheese that you love, jot down their name and contact info and put them on your list to follow up with after today to practice what you learn. So with that, we'll get started. So you've networked. We've had a lot of chamber events recently. You might have been to another industry event, a conference, someone's introduced you to someone, and you've come back and you have a huge stack of cards. And the question is, what do you, let me go back. I jumped way ahead there. What do you do with them? You've got the information. What we're going to talk about today is, where do you put that information? What do you keep? What do you record? How do you follow up with your contacts? And then how do you nurture those relationships going forward? Because it really isn't a one-time conversation. It's something that's an ongoing relationship. If you think about your decision-making process when you buy a new product or service, you don't often do it the first time you interact with it. It may take you a couple interactions, a couple of communications, a couple times to the store. So we want to think about, how do you nurture these relationships that you make at chamber events or other events that you are going to? So how many, just, you can wave your hands, I can see your videos. How many of you went to the March Success Express workshop with Sandy Kearney? So what she talked about was, have a goal in mind when you go to a networking event. So it's not like you went to the expo last week, I'm just here to collect cards and have fun. You had something in mind. You were looking for potential partnerships, collaborations, or other goals. You were there to find services that you need for your business. So before you can follow up with someone that you've met, you have to revisit those goals about what it was that you were looking for in doing that activity. And it's really important to point out here, and Sandy said this too, you're focused on building and cultivating a relationship, not just selling your product, your service, or your business. Because if you go in with a, hey, it was great to meet you, here's what you need to buy from me, chances are you're not going to get someone to call you back or reconnect with you. So you want to think about it in the context of your goals for what you're doing and how you can bring value to that relationship. I see some good answers coming in. Just a quick check. Someone loves Velveeta. Betsy, that's a good one. So after you thought about your goals, you've gone to an event, you've exhibited an event, and you've got this contact information, you really want to think about, how do you store the information? And this is going to tie back to your goals. How do you decide what system you're going to use? So before as I'm diving into this, maybe in between the cheese answers there and the contact, shout out, what type of system might you use already? How do you record contact information that you get from events? So there's a couple of considerations. There are, do you have a system in place already that your company or you have set up to use? How tech savvy are you? Are you going to need something with a lot of bells and whistles? Or are you going to need something basic? Do you have an idea for how you want to
I got email.
Connect with folks after the fact? And then when you think about your technology, what other systems might you want it to connect with? Is it, once someone's contact is in there and you nurture that relationship, are you going to want to be able to share that with someone else on your team? Does it turn into an ongoing relationship where you're trying to track interactions? So you want to think about all the ways in which you might use your new contacts information to decide what type of system you're going to use for storing it. And so some of the choices for those, it really varies based on what your ultimate goal is. So you can go with a full CRM, a customer relationship management system, something like, larger companies, or even a small business Salesforce or ActiveCampaign. ConvertKit is also another system that small businesses are using. Those are going to give you a robust set of features in where you can track interactions, you can send automated emails, you can segment your customers or your clients. So something like a CRM is going to give you a lot of features so that, you know, you've got their information and you're able to do more with it. Sort of the next step down in some cases in terms of bells and whistles and features would be an email service provider like a MailChimp or a Constant Contact. And that is something where you can record the information. It might not be in as much detail, but it might be enough for what you're looking for to maintain that relationship with your contact. There's nothing wrong with a good old spreadsheet, an Excel or a Google Sheet. We'll talk about that on the next slide, a little bit about what information you keep and what you might want to consider in how you track it. If you work for a bank or a larger organization, maybe your company has a customer management system already, and there's a way that you can enter your new contacts information in there for yourself and tag it for your needs. And then, you know, I'm an old school, I still have a landline, I keep a paper calendar, so I threw Rolodex on there as another choice, right? People are still using business cards, not always digital cards, which also are a great option. So if you have a digital business card, you can have people scan it. It goes right into either their phone contacts, or you can have them scan your QR code and it can go straight into your system like a MailChimp and immediately add to your contact list. So that's something to think about too. If you know that you never ever type that information anywhere other than the to field of an email afterwards, maybe you look at some technology options for how to capture that in the first place, so that you're eliminating that step, which you know you can't do. There's a lot of good answers here in the chat. I will say, if you have questions as I'm going along, I can see the chat, so enter those in and I'm happy to answer those as we go. And I'll also save time for questions at the end. So I love source data as a marketer. How did people find me? Where did they see my information? What was our interaction? So here's a list of like the basic information that I think you want to take and record after you meet someone at an event or a networking opportunity. So you're going to want to know their contact, their name, where they work, their contact information if they've given it to you. So if their card has their email, their website, and their social media handles, put that in your information because they're telling you that that's how they want to be found and interacted with. Put down when you met them. What was the event? Where was the event? And record what that event was. So it's a little fuzzy, but you can see here on my sample contact, I met at the Q9 March BFF lunch. So I have a tag there to tell me this is, let's say, where I met Betsy. On Betsy's contact, I might say, I met her at the April BFF lunch. We chatted about this. And so I would encourage you to think about when you meet someone at an event and they hand you a physical card, write a few notes on the card about what you talked about. Betsy told me about the YMCA's new exercise room, or something on the card so that when you get home, you don't just look at it and say, who is this? What do we talk about? Why do I want to follow up with them? Because again, we're going to tie in when we talk about crafting a compelling message, you need to know why you got that card, or what is it that you can tie back to your networking goal about why you want to reach out to this person. And so anything that you can do to make it easier on yourself. I was talking with someone at lunch yesterday who had gone to a speed networking event and they came home with 68 cards. Now, if you met 68 people in the span of 2 hours, how good do you think you're going to be at remembering a detail about them and what you wanted to follow up with them about? So it's sort of like when you go to a restaurant and they take your order, like the waitress or server remembers it without writing it down and walks away. And you're always worried, are they going to get it right? Do they have all my details, right? How much could they really capture? So it takes an extra second to say, let me jot down on the card what we're talking about so I can follow up with you, or so we can continue the conversation. And that's something that I think is really important to put into your spreadsheet, your system, your CRM, so that you have that context for talking with someone. And then do yourself a favor and tag them as a prospective client, tag them as a potential collaborator, tag them as a referral partner, so that it's easy for you to sort your list and figure out who is in there and why they're in there. So that when you go back and look at the information, you know what someone's purpose is in there. Again, tied to what your goals are in building your network through attending these types of events. I will say, if you're terrible at faces and names and remembering people, go to someone's social media. If they've given you their information, if it's on their card, like my Instagram is on my business card, I'll have my face on there so that people can say, oh yeah, I didn't remember, I wasn't sure who we talked about, but maybe it jogs your memory. So that's out there. If people give it to you, I would definitely use it. So you've got a system in place. Maybe you've decided on the spreadsheet or the CRM. You've got the information that you've gathered from your interaction. And then how do you decide how to communicate with them? What do you want to talk about? There's a couple of things here. And again, I'm just going to keep saying it, tie it back to that goal. It's like anything you do in your business. If it's not aligned with your goals, maybe it's not the right thing to be doing and spending your time on. So think about, if you've met someone, what you want to talk to them about. So let's say that, I stopped by Bunny's booth at the expo last week, and she's talking about auto insurance or motorcycle insurance or boat insurance. And I don't have a boat, but maybe I do in the future. So I send her a note and I say, hey, it was so great to meet you at the expo. I'm not in the market for insurance right now, but I'd love to, keep in touch as things might change for me, right? So I'm tying it to establishing that connection, a familiarity, so she knows what we talked about, who I am, and sets the stage for contacting her in the future if something were to come up, right? So you're sort of saying, it was nice to meet you. I'd love to keep in touch. That could be your goal. Your goal, if your goal was to expand your network and build your group of referral partners, then maybe you ask for an in-person or virtual meeting to continue the conversation. And you would decide, you can also share about your business, but I'll offer ways to engage with each other. So it's sort of an offer and a request. It's not just a, here's what I'm doing kind of a conversation. So there's a lot of ways to keep in touch with people. Everyone has a different preference. So what I would say is, if you could drop in the chat, because I would love to know this, what's your preferred method for follow-up? Is it phone, email, text, a social media message? Just quick note in the chat. So for example, my card doesn't have a phone number on it. My card has my email, my website, and my Instagram, because those are the ways that I prefer to take in the information for an initial inquiry. Let's say if I'm an event. So I'd love to know what you like in terms of follow-up. So there, as I say here, you can see the different ways to follow up. It's really, this is based on your interaction with the person from the event. Did you talk about how you'd follow up with them? If they stopped by your table at an event, did you let them know you'd be adding them to your mailing list? Did you jot down on their card, call, John for a meeting about this? So think about if you had that conversation initially, and then think about too, what was your exchange like? Was it a quick, hey, great to meet you? Or was it a longer conversation and a more in-depth conversation? Because that's also going to drive how much information you put into your email or your communication or your call. So I see a couple notes here. A lot of people say text and email. Some people say connect on LinkedIn. That's a great option too if you're a LinkedIn user. Sometimes the messages get lost if you're not connected with the person initially. I also say call followed by an email or LinkedIn. So a lot of different options. And, it might be helpful to think about you when you meet someone, communicating that to them so that they know how best to connect with you. So say, hey, would you send me, I'll follow up with you by email, or, hey, send me a text. That's great. My phone number is on my card. So think about that. So we're going to spend a few minutes here talking about crafting a compelling message, because I think that people, they have, myself included, sometimes you have the best intentions. You get home, you're really excited, and then you check your email, or you get on a call, or you go back to meetings, or you go out to clients, and then you haven't done the follow-up. So sometimes, take a little bit of time ahead of time before you attend the event. And I think Sandy talked about this in March regarding the expo. Have your draft put together before you go to the event. So come up with your goal for the event, craft a follow-up message that ties into that. And then when you get back, fill it in for the folks you've met. So you want to think about a personalized message, not just a blanket, hey, it was great to meet you at this event. I hope to connect with you again soon. Schedule a meeting with the link in my signature, right? So a personalized message has a clear call to action, because if you have a vague, let's get together sometime, how often do you reply to someone and say, sure, here's this, and that? So clear call to action that's tied to that networking goal, and make it easy for the person to take action to follow up with you. And then the last one I think is really important, provide value with no expectation in return. So I met someone who was trying to bring in clients for corporate events at their facility. And I said, well, have you thought about calling consultants event planners who work with large corporations and get on their list, right? And they're just, it's not a business opportunity for me. Like, that's not something like a service I provide, but it's something that I know that could provide value to them. And I know that they might not have something to help me right then, but it's helping me to build credibility, establish some trustworthiness, and maybe a reason for connection, and position myself as a resource for them. So think about what, it doesn't have to be giving away the secrets, but maybe there's something that you thought about for their business that is an easy thing to put in there in your follow-up. And I'll give you some samples of that. So this is an email I got after the expo last week. I spent a few minutes talking with someone. We talked about our shared backgrounds, a little bit about the services I provide, and then what they were looking for. So you can see here, it calls out where we met. It says something that I shared about my business, my Marketing Power Hour, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and sort of complements or calls out the benefit of the service that I described. And then it says something about them. They're growing their financial planning practice. They're looking to expand their network of small business owners. We might not be able to work together. You might already have someone like me, but could we connect to learn more? And then you can see, use the schedule a combo link in my signature to find a time that works best. If I haven't had a chance, if you haven't done it, I'll follow up with you. So it's personalized to me, tells me where we met, what we talked about, what they're hoping to get out of the conversation, what their goal was for the networking interaction, and then a clear call to action and a way to follow up, and a promise that they'll follow up if they haven't heard from me. So it takes the pressure off of me as the recipient to feel like, oh, I have to take action. I have to decide now. So they're saying like, hey, I'd love to chat with you. If it's the right fit, I'll follow up with you again. So I would say, this is a message that sort of hits all of those points. These are two, one that I sent when I started my business, and another that from a networking native I attended. You can see here, there's no reason for someone to follow up, or no way for someone to follow up after getting someone like this. So I'll point out this not so great one that I sent. And I can tell you, it was someone I met, I had a card, probably didn't know what they did. And I wasn't sure what I could offer them. So it's great to meet you at BFF and learn more about you and your business. Generic, doesn't even say what your business is, anything about them. I don't say, contact me to follow up, or this is what I work on. Don't even, I have my email signature underneath, but there's really nothing there. It could be to anyone about anything. And the other one here is a networking lunch I went to, and this is from the hostess of the lunch, who spent the entire lunch talking about the products she sold, the different things she was involved in, and all the email is, here's my email, right? There's no reason for me to follow up with her unless I felt compelled to. So they don't give any context. They don't offer any value. They're very vague. There's no next steps. And I'm sure we've all, as you see here, we've sent one of these and we've gotten one of these, and it kind of just like, oh, great, I met them, toss it to the side to your networking, box. It doesn't really do much. It doesn't offer value. It doesn't sell your service or your value, demonstrate your value. So after today's workshop, you'll get some templates for sending a follow-up email. But just to reiterate here, greet the person by name, include where you met and any relevant details, reference something about the recipient. And this is where taking those notes after that first interaction come into play. It could be something as simple as like, you chatted about Hallmark holiday movies at the holiday luncheon, right? And you just put that in there because then that gives them that reference point. Or it could be about shared industry information or conferences, something that is a reference about what you discussed and something about them and what you thought was interesting about meeting them. We all like to be flattered. We like to think, networking is a lot about listening. And if you've been to any of the chamber events lately, so Sandy was the guest speaker at the BFF earlier in the year, and she talked about, networking isn't about asking, what do you do? It's about asking, why do you do what you do? What do you love about what you do? And your job as a networker is to spend time listening to the other person telling you about what it is they do and why they love it. And so when you follow up with them, when you're able to reiterate that back to them and say, it was so great talking with you. I love hearing how you help seniors expand their activities, right? Something that tells them that you were listening and you understood the value in what they did. And then you should provide information about yourself and your business relative to the connection. So it's not a sales pitch for everything that you do, but perhaps there's something that you do that is relevant to the person. And so make sure you include that and include how to connect with that service that you're selling, because ultimately we're trying to grow our business. We're trying to build these relationships, and the ultimate goal is to build business in most cases. So you then want to make sure you're providing that value in the follow-up. So a quick idea, a resource, have you seen this type of event coming up? Something that, maybe they know, maybe they don't, but it demonstrates your credibility, your value. And then again, that clear call to action. So scheduling a call, follow-up email, asking or offering an introduction or referral, all tied back to that initial goal and that interaction that you had with them at the event. I'm just going to flip back to the chat because I see a question in here. Interested. So there's some question about sort of the frequency and cadence of follow-ups for higher prospects. So I think, let me, hold on one second. Let me flip to the next one. No. Okay. So I think it's important to follow up with someone that you meet in an event pretty quickly so that it's top of mind. They don't forget you. You don't hit that point where you're like, I should have done it and now it's too late and it's going to be awkward to send it. So, within 24 to 48 hours, let's say like for yesterday's BFF luncheon, I'm going to make sure all my follow-ups go out by Friday. And I'm probably going to start with the ones that I had the most, that I would consider, I'm looking at John's question here, maybe the highest prospects. So people I had a really direct connection with, I had a longer conversation with, there's something that I said I would follow up with them on or offer them. I'm probably going to get those out of the way first because they're going to be it's a higher value to me as well in the follow-up. And then I will, after that, the ones that maybe I didn't have as much information or direct connection with, then I'll send those out sort of just to manage my time. I think that, so in that sample that I sent you, the person told me that they sent that email on like a Thursday and said, if I don't hear from you by Monday, I'll follow up. Right. So they gave a couple of days before they would follow up again. So think about yourself and your how you work. What would be comfortable for someone to reconnect with you? So if you got an email and then we've all gotten these sales emails, would you be annoyed 2 days later if someone was like, hey, I didn't hear from you, I really want to connect with you? So think about what feels good, right? Hey, I know you mentioned this was your busy season, or, oh, I didn't hear from you, I thought of this other idea, or I wanted to reconnect about something. So there's not a set time for that sort of follow-up interaction. But I would say if you set out in your initial contact what your next step is, then you're setting the expectation for the relationship or the communication. And so people know what to expect from you. And they're like, man, Laura's really bugging me. I haven't signed up for anything. I haven't called her back. I haven't emailed her. We're talking about, this is the start of a relationship, hopefully an ongoing relationship. So you want to approach it in that way. And so what we'll talk about, and that ties right into this, is how do you nurture that relationship? So it's not a one and done. So if you're a chamber member, which I think most or many of you are, you're going to see someone over and over again at events. And chances are, if now is not the time for you to work together, maybe it is in a year, maybe it is in 8 months, 6 months. You never know. You want to find ways to keep yourself top of mind and also keep those connections, because you never know when, Karen will say, oh, I know that Laura does this, let me connect you with her, right? So you want people to know what you do, what value you bring, what your business provides, and be able to use you as a resource for either their clients. So I meet a lot of bankers. I'm sure there's bankers here, right? A banker is not my direct customer or client, because I'm working with small businesses that are marketing food products, services, things like that to their customers. But a banker might have one of my potential clients as their client, right? And so I want Sonia to know that I offer small business marketing resources. So if she's talking with a client who's coming in for financing, looking to expand their business, she can say, oh, do you need help with marketing as you grow your business? And she can refer back to me. So it's thinking about the ways in which you connect with the person, but then who do they also connect with? So it is that network, right? So thinking about nurturing that relationship so that you can be top of mind, you can come to mind as a trusted resource. So there's a number of ways to do that. And it's not just adding them to your newsletter list and sending quarterly blasts and hoping that they remember what you do. Depending on your social media network of choice, it's easy to follow someone on Instagram, on LinkedIn, if they have a Facebook business page or group. Just regularly interact or set a schedule for yourself of how often you go on and look at their information. Quick comment, a like, offer something that might be of value. You can email them if you've talked about something that they're doing or you're doing, and you can email and say, hey, I remember you were hoping to launch your product in Q4 this year. Hope everything's going well. Have that information in your notes about what they're working on if you have it. I find sharing events of interest or things that come up that might be valuable to them can be helpful. It's like, used to do press clippings or keep things for information that's going on and share articles that are of value. But tie it back to that original reason for why you want to cultivate the relationship with this person. And making yourself available as a resource. Someone that they can call with a quick question. Hey, I have a question about this, maybe you're, it's not in your wheelhouse, but do you know someone that could help me? Because you've had these ongoing relationships. And then I skipped over it, but reintroduce yourself at events, right? So you've met someone, maybe you haven't seen them since last year's expo, but you remember them. They might not remember you. I always default to that someone's not going to remember me. And I just reintroduce myself and say, I think we've met before, but I'm Laura, this is what I do. It takes the pressure off them and makes it a little less awkward, because you're giving them the out, like, hey, I'm not sure if we met, or, if you definitely know you did, but sometimes with networking, people, not everyone is as comfortable with in-person networking. And so it's important to think about how you approach the interaction. I see a room full of people and I'm like, yes, full of opportunities. I have a friend who's like, oh no, look at all that minefield of conversation, right? So it's thinking about how you approach people to have those relationships and have those interactions. So I do have a couple of sample messages here for follow-ups that I've gotten. And this is, 3 months, 4 months after the initial connection. So the first one is someone that I met at the expo last year. And then like 3 months later, we had a one-on-one. And then we really didn't have anything we were going to work on together. But he reached out and said, hey, it's been a while. I've been thinking about you. Have you thought about this resource? Right? He's not selling his services. He's not pushing me to do something. He's saying, hey, I was thinking about you. Here's something that might be helpful to your business. And I'm like, oh, that's so great. And so then I think, oh yeah, Alan does this. I wonder if I have people I can connect him to if they ask me about his services. And then the second message talks about, this was someone I met in the holidays, and we quickly determined when we were chatting, like, there really wasn't an opportunity to work together at that point, but it was someone that I really enjoyed the conversation with, and had sent a message and said, it was so great to meet you and chat about holiday movies. If there's an opportunity to work together in the future, I'd love to do that. Let's keep in touch. And this was her reply, which is, I went and followed on their social. I joined the newsletter list so I could keep in touch with them. I expressed my interest. And then they said, okay, well, we'll pass your information along to our team in case there's opportunities in the future. So this is one of those nice to meet you, establish a connection, hope to work together in the future type of interactions. But these are ways in which you can nurture that relationship. And sometimes, especially with the chamber, there's so many different industries, different job functions, that you're not going to be networking with someone who's going to buy directly from you or use you as a service provider, but you're interacting with someone who is going to have someone in their network that could need you. And so I challenge you to approach these events in that way. It's like, anyone here could be of help to me. I just don't know how yet. And I'm going to explore that opportunity and be open to the different kinds of networks. And don't just, look at someone's name tag and be like, oh, they're not for me. And you never know. Maybe they have a side business. Maybe their spouse has a business. Maybe they're connected in a way that's going to help you. And so I would say, have that networking goal, but be open to those connections and those opportunities. I am going to say, I skipped one thing that I want to talk about in terms of follow-ups and the systems that what information you record. Regardless of what system you choose, if it's a spreadsheet, it's a little bit more manual. If it's an email service provider, it's more automatic. Record the date which you send your communication. So have the date for when you sent your first email, and then have the dates for when you follow up with them so that you aren't bombarding them, so that or you can go back and see, oh, it actually has been like 6 months and I haven't checked in with Kelly. So you're going to want to keep track of that for yourself. If you use some of those systems, you can see if you send. So there's a couple of things. You can just use the system to record the information and then send it out through your regular email. You can also use those systems to send the email. Some of them can look like personal emails. like it looks like it's coming from your inbox, but through the system. If you do it that way, you can get analytics. This is my marketer coming out. You can see if they clicked on your link. They can see if you can see if they opened your email, and it can give you a little bit more insight. I'm going to pause here. We have about 15 minutes left. I want to answer any questions that people have. I would say, very specific questions are sometimes hard to answer, but it's more general about systems that you're using, or, you want to give an example of a terrible follow-up you've gotten or a great one you've gotten. Happy to answer questions. You can either unmute and ask your question if you're comfortable, or type it into the chat. Just make sure your chat message goes to everyone so that I can see it. I'm going to scroll back through the chat to see if I missed any questions earlier. All right, so
Hey, Laura.
yes.
Oh, hi, it's Catherine. I just want
Hello.
to say your reminder of adding value, finding ways to add value is pivotal. So thank you for that reminder, because sometimes I forget. I get so focused on, let's set up a meeting. Thank you, bye. Oh, wow,
Yeah.
I could probably add something else.
Right.
So, and remembering how you connected and what you had talked about, it really does a lot to further a relationship.
Yeah. It's one of those things, you like to know that someone was listening to you, like
Yes.
Catherine, we met, at a chamber event a long time ago. And I remembered in your introduction, you said you work with people who were self-employed or didn't have a traditional employer for their mortgage. And I was like, oh, I saw this thing in a Facebook group where someone's looking for a mortgage. And I was like, I remember Catherine told me, and I jotted that down on her card. So it's little things like that.
It truly is. Thank you.
I'm just going to keep reading comments here. If you have a question, jump out. Creamy blueberry goat cheese. Matt, that sounds delicious. I guess I would love to know, you can jump in the chat or, unmute as well. Like, what is a major turn off for you in a follow-up from a networking event? Like if someone, call, text, or email, what's like a major turn off? You're like, I am definitely not following up with them. I hate when I get a full sales pitch with no information and they've added me to their email list. I see John's agreeing there. They've added you to the email list without telling you. So I don't know how, just you can wave your hands. Did anybody have a booth at the expo last week? I know Bunny, you had a booth. Yeah, John, Matt. So you probably collected cards for a raffle or a drawing. And I did that. I do that as well. It's important to either put on your sign or make sure people know if you're going to do it, that you've added, that you're going to add them to an email list, or your first email out to them. Maybe you don't know anything about them other than they dropped your card. Is, hey, we're so glad you stopped by our table at the expo. We're sorry we didn't have a chance to have a full conversation. We'd love to follow up with you. So that's one way to do it. And then also put in there, we'd love to add you to our mailing list. If you have a newsletter list, we'd love to add you to our list to keep you up to date on what's happening with our company, and give them an opt-in or an opt-out. And that way you are capturing that information. They're getting something from you and you're giving them an opportunity to engage. Because how many of us walked around the expo and we're like, drop, 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 right? Didn't maybe not always stop to talk. John, you're waving your hand.
This is related, but unrelated. I only work for the town of Grafton part-time. And for my other business, I routinely attend conventions as an exhibitor, speaker, and attendee. A lot of the times, the organization that I'm working with will provide me with the emails of all the attendees, which is great. But the challenge is, if you're getting 600 or 700 names, I only care about the business owners.
Sure.
Or people that want to buy a business. So let's say 500 of them are useless. There's no real way that I have to narrow that list down quickly and efficiently. That I'm
Yeah, so are
aware of.
you're just getting like, are you getting like a spreadsheet or are you just getting like a paper list of folks? What are you getting?
It's an Excel spreadsheet of all the people registered.
Okay, so yeah, that one's tricky. If it has company names and you can sort by name, and that might be a case where the people who've attended know that their emails have been given out to exhibitors. And that's a case where you might craft an email that says it was, you were an attendee at this is not the right wordsmithing, but like, we saw you at the expo, we didn't get a chance to connect, and you might have like an opt-in form and or some type of information. We can chat about this, but you provide like a quick form that they can fill out if they're interested in getting more information, and it asks, are you a business owner? And if it's 600 names and you end up with like 15 out of it, I mean, that's better than no one, right? So there are ways in which you can request additional information and provide information about yourself to try if you didn't have any way to sort that list,
Yeah, because it's the name, the company, the email. Well, you do a sorts to figure out, okay, here's the company, you can figure out who's in
Yeah.
charge of the companies, but it's quite time consuming.
Yeah, and maybe that's something where you have a very specific, like you said, you're looking for a business owner or someone looking to sell their business. You have a very specific goal for what you want to do with that list. And that's what you craft your message around. And your message is like targeted at that person, and you craft the body of the email and the copy with the opt-in specific to that goal. And so that's something you would have to sort of massage and navigate there. But it's a way to try to get people to move from the anonymous, like, hey, I'm John and this is what I do, to requesting more information or moving forward in sort of that communication process. And Teresa says here, how about asking about their needs or if they're a decision maker? So it could be like a quick survey type of a thing. People like to talk about themselves. So that might be one way to do it.
Thank you.
Other questions? Let me flip back through. So sales pitch right away, no attempt to cultivate a relationship. Ask you, yep. Handwritten notes. So I see Dan has put in there sending out cards, birthdays, anniversaries, thank yous. So that's something to think about. So again, we're talking about, not just customer relationship management as like a CRM system, but really about the relationship life cycle or the relationship you're building with your network. So this goes back to capturing that information. Are you capturing information that is going to be helpful as you cultivate that relationship? So their business type, their position, like for John, it's important to you to know what they, are they an owner? Are they looking to sell? I would look for, what type of, how big is the business? Where do they market and sell their products? If you can capture birthdays. So there are a couple of things. If you're an exhibitor and or this is just something to think about as you capture information, capture what you want to use in the future. So there are a couple of things. You can collect business cards. I don't know how many of you have or have seen people with digital business cards where you just scan their QR code or tap their phone. If you use a system like MailChimp or another like Constant Contact or email service provider, you can generate a QR code for people to scan at an event, and they will go directly into your contact list. And you can have a quick sign up form where they scan it and they have to say their name, their business, their title. Certainly you don't have to make the fields optional because you don't want to turn anyone away from submitting their information to you. But there are a lot of ways to think about capturing that information that's going to be useful to you in the future. And 100% capture source data, where you met, when you met, how they heard about you. So if you have a form on your website and you're not capturing the how did you hear about us, go back and ask your web developer or you go fix that form, because that's going to also help you figure out where did they hear about you might give you some information about how you might provide them with information in your follow-ups. Other questions? All right. So my contact information is here on the screen. These are great ways to follow up with me. I have a challenge for everybody here today, all of you on the call. So I would love for you to follow up with me and send me what Carlene is going to send out after we get off the call. She's going to have a copy of my slides, and she's going to have a document with some sample templates for crafting an email and those message components. So you've seen my favorite cheese is anything but blue. I coach my kids' hockey teams. I took up hockey as an adult when they started hockey. I love to talk marketing and food. So those are some things about me. Think about that while you craft your message. So when you craft your message, this is what Carlene was mentioning. One of my new offerings is a marketing power hour. So you bring a marketing topic, issue, challenge that you've got on your mind. I bring my expertise, and we spend an hour together powering through that, and you leave with action items to move forward. So you send me some information ahead of time so we can maximize our hour. For everybody who sends me a follow-up email today, I'm going to draw at random a winner for Power Hour. Again, anything of your choosing, if it's not right for you, if you're a banker and it would be relevant for your client, pass it along to a client. But it's really just an easy way to have that conversation, get a fresh perspective. We can talk about your networking strategies. We can work on emails together. Really anything that you want to bring. So the QR code is here, which takes you to the website for this. But again, I'd love for you to spend a few minutes crafting an email, based on what we talked about. It can be uncomfortable, and not everybody loves to write. Sometimes you don't know what to say. So hopefully the templates and the slides will help you in pulling that together. And then I'm just going to point out, Catherine mentioned in the chat, there's a business card scanner app called CamCard, which I've seen people use before. There's a lot of technology options out there. And so if that's something like you're tired of cards and you want to go straight in, there are so many things you can do for that. Well, I want to thank you for starting your day, learning about following up after networking. And I hope that this is helpful to you as you think about not only the follow, but approaching the networking opportunity and setting those goals in mind and making sure who you meet at the event and what you do after the event always aligns with the goals that you've set for yourself and your business. And it's not just you set it, align it with your business goals, right? My goal is to expand my visibility this quarter, right? So my networking opportunities that I've chosen expose me to a lot of different people and give me the opportunity to meet new people. So that's my goal in Q2 is to expand visibility. And I chose opportunities to fit that goal. So whatever your goal is, tie that to your activities and your follow-up.
Thank you, Laura. This has
Thank you,
been
Laura.
wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
It's a great way to spend the morning. Thank you. And a bonus that you're raffling off a prize. So thank you for that. Free, and you could win something. It doesn't get better than
Listen,
that.
everybody loves a good raffle. At least I do.
It is true. Thank you. And Carlene will send out a survey as well. We use that on the committee to also determine what other types of Success Express seminars we'll be offering in the future. So please take a moment to fill that out.
So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day. And you'll be seeing these items hopefully by the end of today or early tomorrow. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Carlene.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thank you.